Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning back in. It's jerkbait time. Like we talked about before, this is really the time of year when jerkbaits are going to start shining, from starting right about now all the way up until your water either freezes over or you hit true wintering conditions. The jerkbait is a really good bait for fall time of the year. It catches everything from largemouth, smallmouth, spotted bass to walleye, muskie, pike, stripers, white bass. I mean, you'll catch everything on it. You even catch crappie and perch and stuff like that on it. It's a bait that triggers a lot of fish into biting and is a really good bait to utilize. One of the questions though that I got recently from a subscriber was, how do you go about fishing a jerkbait? Is it just the straight retrieve? Is it you jerk it consistently without stopping it? And it kind of got me thinking that there's a lot of different ways to fish it. And I think it's one of those things that unless you're a really good jerkbait fisherman or somebody who uses a jerkbait often, you don't really realize how the cadence of your retrieve is pretty much one of the most important things about the jerkbait and how to get it to work. If you're not paying attention to what triggers those strikes, you're probably missing out on generating a lot more bites. You know, if somebody, the worst thing you can do with a jerkbait is go out and just jerk, you know, on one cast, next cast, you mix it up and not pay attention to what retrieve you were doing to generate that strike. You know, oftentimes a retrieve that works one day doesn't work the next day. And sometimes it's just a matter of just mixing it up throughout the day, but you have to be aware of what's going on. You don't want to catch a fish and then go, how did I trigger that fish to strike? And with jerkbaits, it's really important to pay attention to what you were doing and when that fish bit. So, you know, did they bite in the middle of a series of jerks, or did they bite 10 seconds into a pause? Those are things you want to be aware of. And if you paused it and they bit on the pause, did you snap it once before that? Did you snap it twice? Did you straight retrieve it? Did you pull it? There's a lot of different retrieves when it comes to a jerkbait. And I feel like that's one of the things we don't hear a lot of people talking about. So that's why I want to address it. I'm going to show you my favorite retrieves. I've got a handful of retrieves that seem to work the best for me. So we're going to go down there and show you exactly what I'm doing. All right, guys. My number one jerkbait retrieve, and what I start with pretty much everywhere, is 3 hard jerks with a 2-second pause. Just like that. So that's kind of my standard retrieve. If I'm looking to impart a little bit different action, or I'm getting followers on that retrieve, I'd make one simple change. So I throw it out, do my 3 hard jerks, and I'll do that a couple times in a row. And then instead of doing 3 jerks back, I give 1 hard pop up followed by 3 jerks. And that little bit of a hard pop up brings the bait up versus wanting to dig deeper. It's a really different retrieve. It's something that Matt Airy showed me how to do on Beaver Lake. He won a Beaver Lake tournament, or did really well. I was fishing the same cove with him, and he was imparting that little bit of a different action by doing his jerks, and then 1 up, jerks, and followed by 1 paw or 1 jerk up. And that was triggering a lot of those fish that were following baits to actually bite. So that's my standard retrieve. I always start with that. If I'm fishing really late in the year, when the water's really cold, or I'm fishing off colored water, I don't do that many jerks. I'll actually throw it out, I'll jerk it down to the depth, get it there, and then I'll just do sweeps and then give it a long pause and try to just keep the line tight, do another sweep, keep the line tight, and I'll just sweep it back to the boat. And it seems like in really cold water, that's a really good way to generate strikes. The key is you got to get it down to depth, and by doing that, or in order to do that, you actually got to jerk it down. So you're gonna jerk it down like you normally would, and then just from there, just sweep it. You know, they're probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 foot long sweeps, and that seems to work really well in really cold water and dirty water. Other than that, I got one other main retrieve, and this is what I use for schooling fish, or if I'm fishing a jerkbait more in the summer months. And in that case, I don't give it that long of a pause, but I'll pretty much just give it 2 hard, pause, 2 hard, and then just kind of work in 1, 2 hard. And it's just pretty much constant motion. There's not much pausing going on throughout the entire time. So I'm throwing it out, and it's kind of more just and you might hear my drag going out a little bit. That's exactly where I like to have my reel set. Now keep in mind, you guys are gonna think I'm crazy. I throw a spinning reel. This is a 6.5 foot medium light rod. I've got 8-pound fluorocarbon line on, and I want my drag set to the point where when I'm setting the hook and that fish, if they hit it and they freight train me and they just keep going, my drag's gonna go out right away. So I'm really got my drag set loose, so you'll hear it. For me, that's when I know I've got it set perfect. When I'm giving it a quick jerk and I hear like 1 or 2 ticks of drag, that to me is like the perfect set, because you'll have if a big fish hits it, sometimes they'll hit it and just keep going with it, and when that happens, you're going to be, you know, you better make sure you have your drag set. So those are the 3 main retrieves. The only variance I'll put in is in really cold weather. Again, if they're not hitting that sweeping motion I was talking about, I will work in long pauses, up to 10-second pauses, but I'm still doing my 3 jerks, only instead I'm doing like a 10-second pause in between. If I'm not getting bit at a real long pause, at that point I don't think it's worth imparting a real long pause. But if you're getting bit in that 5 to 10 second range, you may need to even go longer than 10 seconds. But if you're not, if the bites you're getting are coming less than 5 seconds, then you should not, in my opinion, go with a longer pause, because it's not working. But I do like to work in that 3 jerk with up to 10-second long pauses if I'm in really tough or really cold conditions. But that's kind of where we're at. Those are the retrieves I like to do. I don't have any problem at all if you're throwing it out and you're just kind of, you know, doing whatever crazy stuff and working it up, trying to generate strikes. The key is you just got to remember what you did to get that bite, because there was something on that retrieve that triggered that fish. And if you're being all crazy all over the place, that's fine, but you're probably not going to recall what you did to generate that strike. That's why I like to get into rhythms. It's almost like a hypnotic rhythm, and you train yourself to work the jerkbait in a certain manner, and that way you can duplicate it and replicate what you did to get more bites. So give it a try, guys. Grab your jerkbaits, head out to the water. The fall is a great time to throw a jerkbait. Stay tuned, new tips and tricks coming out every day.